Good to see all of you, Leslie and Terry. Thank you for singing Happy Birthday. That was very special. Did you see me holding on to a clock, Dolores? It's just the way things are, yeah? It was ticking still, though. Amen? I'm not over yet. I still got a couple of years in me, I think, yeah. I have to celebrate the whole month? No, I don't think I have the energy, Dolores. Not everybody has your energy, Dolores. 1 week of celebrations, more than enough. And my mom is here. Thank you, Mom, for speaking. Make sure you give her a hug before she leaves. And yeah, good to see all of you. Jason, Tammy, you guys came in. I didn't see you. Gene, you too. Thank you for playing today. And you're looking all ready for the Vikings game. That's good. I didn't know. Now I know. I stopped watching football, Jason. I always give the New York Giants 2 games. I have seen enough. You know what I mean? So yeah, I already have my anxiety. I don't need more. Okay, good to see all of you guys. Friends from Tennessee? Yeah, sure. Yeah, my son likes the Chiefs too. Yeah, that would be an alternative. But anyway. All right. Friends from Tennessee, glad you guys are here. Hope you're having a good time thus far. And everybody who's visiting, thank you for singing. Friends, Chanda, friends from Albuquerque, Tony, glad you guys are here. And Rose, who's visiting us today as well from Las Cruces, which is awesome. Glad that you're here with us. Cliff and everybody, Troy, David Torres is back. Bernadette, good to see you. Well, anyway, good to see all you guys. Just good. Yeah. All right. Are we ready to go? Or are you like all churched up? You want to go back home? Is that an expression? I don't know. Could be, right? Churched up. I think we're done. Do you want to say, Gina's here. I'm always happy when Gina's around. Gina, can I talk a little bit about the Bible before we go? Is that cool with you? I'll let you decide. This is not like a North Korea. This is a democracy, right? Anyway, should we study just a little bit? I can go either way. Okay, let's do it. For those who are new here, we've been studying Matthew for quite some time. I think it'll be 2 years. Is it 2 years now in January? 2 years. Feels like 3, right, Dolores? Being with Jesus is exhausting, right? Anyway, I can flip the switch and just go back to the old, guys, this is what the Lord would... I can do that, But then I have to change my voice, maybe throw on a tie, do something to make it legit, Anyway. But thank you for journeying with me through the Gospel of Matthew. I hope that it has been meaningful for you to just follow Jesus in his footsteps. I'm excited for the next part. As soon as we're done with Matthew, we might just head on to the book of Acts to understand what the church looked like back in the day and how it's not how we thought it was. It was not all roses and oh yeah, the Spirit, let's just go on and everything is great. It was a mess. So it's good to just take a look at that so that we can understand more about ourselves. And then, I don't know, maybe we can do other jumps in the future. But for now, we got to finish Matthew, Terry. So we just got to power through slowly and not, slaughter the text. So yeah, so today we're reading Matthew chapter 23, all the way, verse 13, all the way to the end maybe. With the time that we have, I hope that we can get there. I don't know if we will, but that's what we're going to do. And always I do a little review so that you can sort of, for those who are visiting us or who weren't here last week, obviously all the messages are on YouTube at Advent Life Church. Just on YouTube if you want to catch up. But for those who weren't here last week, let me just do a little review. Matthew chapter 23. This is what I've called one of the most ignored chapters in the Gospel of Matthew and probably in all the Gospels. Why? Because basically Christianity and religion, we tend to do the exact opposite of what Jesus lays out here. It's sort of embedded in our human nature. We're not pointing fingers. This is just religious culture. It's much easier to give authority to people that seem like authoritative figures instead of following Jesus and understanding that authority is not tied to external things but to those who serve. The greatest is the one who serves. So it's for us to sort of switch to that paradigm, it requires a lot from us. So this is why Matthew 23 is not a good chapter for basically religious sort of structures, power structures, because it exposes all of us. in our hypocrisy, in our desires for visibility. Jason, to be, I hope they see what I believe and stuff like that in the public sphere, in church. It's hard for us to understand that those who are truly authoritative figures in the eyes of God are the ones who are serving others. Those who sometimes don't appear at all. So it's a huge paradigm shift for anyone who's been in church long enough. So that's what we talked about last week, how hard, again, it is to go through Matthew 23 without us feeling a little uncomfortable about how we perceive authority, of how we perceive church, and all these other things. So, last week we addressed the question of how to avoid what Jesus exposes in the Pharisees and the Scribes, this hypocritical, fake, external religion that is a weight to everybody else. So how do we avoid that? And in reading the first verses, we sort of had an idea as to the keys that Jesus gives to the community to avoid all of that. So we talked about two main things last week. Number one, the idea of authority from power, from hypocrisy to service. The person who is authoritative is not the one who appears to be righteous and all these other things externally. The evidence, the symptom of the one who is truly great in the eyes of God will be connected to service, not to the things that we consider good and best. So that's the first thing that Jesus teaches the community in order to avoid hypocrisy, avoid giving, capital to that form of life that it's truly damaging to self and to others as well. So that's the first thing we talked about. And number two, we talked about hierarchies, how there are power structures within religion, but in the community of Jesus, there will be no structures of power. There will be a sense of brotherhood, of sisterhood. There will be no rabbi. There will be no master. There will be no father, because there's only one teacher, the Christ, and all of you are brothers and sisters. So that's how the community of Jesus is organized. It's organized around recognizing in the face of the other a brother and a sister, and never feeling like you are superior, or like you are the one who has to look down and point fingers. That is not the way of Jesus. So in those two, you can already see how weird and how uncomfortable it is to think about religion these days, because, hey, is there a lot of hypocrisy in religion today when we think about America? Yes or no? Oh yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy. Do we recognize, do we give value, visibility to the invisible, to the people who serve? We don't even know who they are. Number two, do we have power structures in religion? I'm not even talking about our tradition, just anywhere. Do we have structures of power? People over there pointing fingers. We do, don't we? So this is why this is one of the most ignored chapters in the Gospel of Matthew. It's because it's so foreign to how we proceed as communities of faith. So today we're going to read the rest of the chapter, which is a lot. But I hope, and why did I leave the big chunk to the end? Because in this section, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 woes. I don't know, this is a word that we don't use that much, right? Nobody is walking up, to Chick-fil-A, after they're closed and say, "Woe to you, Chick-fil-A, because I was hungry." No, nobody does that, anymore. Or in home, right? People who are recently married, like Jason and Tammy. "Woe to you, woman," or "Woe to you, man, for not folding the sheets," or something like that. Right? And everybody laughs because we've all been there. It's like, "Hey, what is this?" Anyway, so yeah. So it's a word that we don't use that much, but does anybody know what woe means? Do you guys know? It's weird, right? It can't be good. 3 little letters cannot be good. But when you hear woe, what comes to your mind? I mean, Gina already pointed at it. It must be something negative. And so when you hear woe, woe to you, what is a modern? Yes, Jonas. What? Danger. So warnings. Good. Yes, Dave. Whoa. Oh, my good Lord. I think I'm done. We'll go home. I think David cracked the code. It's what you say to a horse to stop it. I mean, why bother studying? Let's just go home. It was good, guys. Thank you. I know my car is right here. I got my keys too. Could you imagine just walking out one day? I wonder what you guys would do. It's a fantasy I have now. Interesting. You'd follow me out? It's like, I want to know where that guy is going. Anyway, you're right. I mean, it is tied to this negative warning, danger. Basically, in the Bible, woe appears a lot in the Old Testament with prophetic, warnings or judgments. Meaning that every time this little word appears in the prophets, it's basically, hey, judgment is coming. Because these are red flags. Whoa, red flag 1. Whoa, red flag 2. Whoa, red flag 3. And by the end of the list, judgment is already there. It's over. So Jesus is sort of, when I was reading it, I went back to I came early here to church today as I normally do, and I reread the whole chapter. In reading it again, it just seems like Jesus is so exhausted. And he's just, there are no more filters, no more worry. Will people understand? It's just laying it all out on the line. It's over. We have tried. God has tried. Prophets have come. Things have been done, and you ceased. You continuously cease to understand, cease to see. So I can imagine the weight of these words to the audience, but to Jesus as well. So again, today we're going to read, and we're going to try to understand the diagnosis of Jesus is giving so that we might be aware of what practices are, again, not to be found in the community of faith. And that's sort of our reading of the Bible here. It's good to understand what was happening back then, to have a grasp as to what the text is saying. But then again, we're reading the text in our church community. How does this resonate with us? Does this expose us? Does this validate us? Does this bless us? Does this bring woe to one of our practices? So again, we need to be open to all of these possibilities, because or else we're going to miss the weight of these texts to us. If everything is good and fine, then these words will have no weight whatsoever. But if we're open to listening to them with an open heart, then maybe there's something there for us as well. So today I try to organize the 7 woes in a simplified way in 2 new ideas that Jesus wants to change in the imagination of the Scribes and Pharisees, although it's too late, but for the communities of faith that would follow afterwards. So we talked about authority, we talked about hierarchy. Today in our reading I'm going to focus on access. Who has access to the community of faith? And number 2, what are the signs of faithfulness? How do we recognize? Yes, those are people who have been with God. Because understand, the idea of Scribes and Pharisees as to who could be considered part of the people of God or access was one. Jesus is about to change it. And the idea of who are the faithful, they had an idea. Jesus is about to change that too. So with all of these things in mind now, let's read together. Matthew chapter 23, verse 13. Are you guys ready? Say yes, no. Are we together? Yvette, are you good over there in the little corner? It's Tammy, okay? All right, good. Keep an eye on Tammy there. All right, let's go. But woe, number 1, woe to you, Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. And we saw that word. You wear masks, you actors. For you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in. That was number 1. Woe to you, Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across sea and land to make a single disciple. Well, proselyte is the word. And when he becomes one of your disciples, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. You are instilling in them the same mechanisms of pushing people away, of judging people because of external things. You are reproducing yourselves. Your mechanisms are diseased, and they lead to diseased communities that will never choose mercy and empathy, but will always choose judgment in the name of the law and of God. Powerful stuff, yeah? Let me tell you a story when I was a kid. When I was a kid, about access. Story about access. I was thinking this week. When I was a kid, my dad was a pastor, big church. Mom is here today, she remembers. South of Brazil. And I was, 10 years old, something like that. So I made it into what we call Pathfinders, which is like Boy Scouts, that kind of, the little, you guys know what Pathfinders is, right? You get a little little robe, a little thing, and you make the tests and you do things and you get new stamps on them, and that becomes like a whole deal too, because you find like those leaders up there in the church, they had like 4 different ones. It became like a whole swag thing, right? It's like, oh, that guy must be something, right? Because he has 4 of those. Anyway, you know the picture, right? So good. So I was part of Pathfinders. Fine. Now I have a little brother, and for those who are older brothers and have siblings, or if you're one of the younger, you know the dynamics, right? Normally the younger one wants to do everything that the older one does. That has always been the dynamic in my home with my brother, and it was great, right? So my brother was little, and he wanted to be a Pathfinder. Now back in those days, I was a little evil, Terry. All right? So I don't know. It was a Wednesday night. We're very bored, And I was hanging out with my Pathfinder crew. And my little brother just wanted to have, access. He wanted to be part of that whole situation. But he was too young, so technically he could not join. But we just wanted to have fun and mess around, so we had evil ideas, right, come to our mind. So let's just put the kid to a bunch of tests, You can already see where this is going, right? So basically, we just said, hey, you have to go, like the worst things that you can ask a 7-year-old, you have to go up to that girl and say you like her, because then, we're going to do several tests to test your courage, And then by the end of it, Leslie's already going like this, and oh my goodness, how can this guy be the pastor? I know, Leslie. I question myself all the time, too. Anyway. So, said, hey, you got to go up and say you like the girl and everything else. And he did that. It was horrible. And then he said, hey, you have to throw a little paper airplane from the balcony of the church. And he did. So horrible situation. And I think it ended in a bathroom somewhere. You have to put your hand in a toilet or something like that. It was just awful. And by the end of it, Troy went like this. That's the feeling. So by the end of it, he went through this whole thing thinking that he was finally going to become a Pathfinder. And in the end, we were all laughing, saying, hey, this was all a joke, and he got really sad, and yeah. So it's confession time, guys. Pray for me, okay? I already said I carry a lot of guilt still. So isn't it life interesting that you can't go back in time, right? I wish it could. These are the things I always think about. I wish I could find a little time machine, go in there, punch little Tiago, and just hug my little brother and say, hey, it's going to be okay, But we can't go back in time. Right? We just have to deal with the consequences of our actions and to learn from them. And to instill in our kids maybe a little bit more grace, a little bit more, kindness and things like that, although, they're going to make their own mistakes too, and that's part of life. And it's okay. Right? Anyway, why am I telling you this story? Because those were the disease mechanisms of the time. People just went out, Sabrina, and were able to make one disciple and then taught them how to judge everybody else and how to be as damaging and as toxic and as they were. So this is why Jesus is so frustrated. It's like there is a system happening here that seems to have no end. There's no solution to this. For hundreds and hundreds of years it has been the same. No solution. So we must remind ourselves constantly that, again, the church cannot be a place, as Jesus says, that shuts the door to people. That our life cannot be a block between people and the kingdom of heaven, which is, yes, something to come in the future, but a reality. Aren't we talking about that for months now? A reality we participate in right now. That's the kingdom of heaven. Living by the principles of the future now. So the question that we must raise ourselves is what kind of access do we offer people into our experience with God? Is it like, hey, you can't come in? Do we raise more walls? Do we lock more doors? Or are we as patient as God was with us? Are we as kind as God has always been with us? Are we as forgiving as God has been with us? Do we offer others what we have also received? Those are the questions that we must always ask ourselves, so that we won't fall into this woe of you stand at the door, you don't go in to participate in what God is doing in the world, and you don't let anybody else go in as well. Do we want to be that kind of community? Yes or no? That stands at the door, that makes ways for people not to be here? Have we been to communities like that? Yes or no? I have been, yeah. My mom and I have traveled a bit, and we've seen it. It's extremely hard to become part of the country club of some churches, right? The registration is long, it's expensive, and the dress codes and all these other things that we normally... So again, it's hard. So Jesus raises these questions that touch upon the imagination of scribes and Pharisees, and that should touch upon ours as well. What are we doing when we relate to others? Is the access into what we are doing outside of church and inside of church as we partake in the kingdom of heaven, experience it now, is it easy or is it complicated to be part of it? Questions. Is it religious bureaucracy or is it freedom and joy? So again, it's hard. We must remind ourselves that the church is a sign of the kingdom, a place where we share and invite others to participate in the reality of the kingdom. Now, we are not the kingdom, we are just a sign. We participate in that which is something other than us, and we invite others to participate in that thing we share and that we call the kingdom of heaven. Are we together thus far? Good. Okay. Should we keep going or are we good for today? Jason, you good? Is there a Vikings game today? Tomorrow, right? Yeah, so you're not in a hurry. Right? Good. All right, where did I stop? Verse 15. Verse 16 now. Woe to you, blind guides. See, they're not only hypocrites, now they're blind guides. It'd be hard to have a blind guide up in the mountains there. Blind guides. Who say, if anyone swears by the temple, it is nothing. But, bless you, Dolores. But if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. You blind fools. For which is greater, the gold or the temple? That has made the gold sacred. And you say, if anyone swears by the altar, it is nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift that is on the altar, he is bound by his oath. You blind men, for which is greater? And that's the whole argument of Jesus here. They are blind because they cannot see the distinctions. They cannot see what is greater and what is smaller. You blind men, for which is greater? The gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and everything on it. And whoever swears by the temple swears by it and by him who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it. So you can see that Pharisees have an unbalanced perception. It's like they're more worried about little things. Like, how can I say... I'll just tell you another story. When I was a kid, I like this place here. I don't know if you've been to churches like this. Back in South America, they're very common. The church is sort of organized like a sanctuary. That's why we call it, some people call it sanctuary, although there's only one sanctuary, which is up in heaven. Here, the veil was torn, and there are no sanctuaries down here. But anyway, we love the idea. So up here, Holy of Holies, Leslie, where the word is spoken. That's why I brought the thing down, because I wanted to be with all of you sinners, right? That was a joke, by the way. All right, so you good? Holy of Holies. People who could come up here, elders, the pastor. Then here it's a holy place. Holy of Holies. Holy. And then outside it's like common area. You have to check yourself right before you come into the holy. And one time I after church, my dad finished up the thing. Mary, I just ran. I was playing tag with probably the Pathfinder kids, right? So I just ran across, and an elder held on to my jacket and gave me a little slap on the head. So this is, I know Karina's already laughing back there. So this is, you know what this is, are you guys understanding the situation? This place, which is just, carpet, was more important to him than a child. So are you understanding that's sort of what Jesus is talking about. You are making people swear by the little gift that they're giving, but don't you understand that there's an altar there? You're making people swear by the gold, but the gold is nothing without you have no understanding of what is actually happening here. And there are literally human beings who want to partake in what happens at the temple, which is what? The coming of heaven to earth. That's what the temple is. Heaven on earth, right there. And you don't allow them to. Can you hear Jesus' frustration in these words? It's like, you are blind fools. You've lost sight of everything that matters to God because of your little, deep traditions and your little... It's just crazy. And by the way, we've all been there. We can point fingers, I can tell you stories, but I can bet that if we do a little heart searching here, we can find things that we put ahead and above human beings. And that's Jesus' argument. What do we place above human lives, the things that truly matter to God? It's sad, really. They value the gold of the temple above the temple, the gift above the altar, and they place a higher value on objects than people. And this is why Jesus calls them blind guides. They lead others into a religion that is unable to see reality. They place things and practices above people. And Jesus will soon talk about how that their history, their sense of history, their pride of history becomes even another object of worship. Verse 23, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness." Now, by the way, this tithing thing here is they bring offerings to the temple, Jason, and they weigh it precisely, correctly. The tithe, make sure that things are all good, because they don't want to take the part that belongs to God. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But they are so caught up in these little things that the things that truly matter to God, they're completely unaware of. And I hope that we can understand the point of this here. That in the momentary that Jesus spoke these words here, the entire Bible changed. So I hope you guys understand this, okay? When Jesus says, love your neighbor, pray for your enemies. Are you guys with me? And then he shows how to do that, as we've seen in the Gospels. What we need to understand is that we can't just go back to David or Samuel or Moses to find a little better example of how to do that. No. Jesus has shown us. You can't just say, oh, but let's go see. No, there's no let's go see. When Jesus says that the weightier things of the law, the thing that truly matters, is justice, mercy, and faithfulness, then as you go back to read, if you don't read with that in your head, it's over. You will be just as blind, just as confused, just as lost as all of those scribes and Pharisees. And we might think that we have things together because we've studied so much and been in church for so long that we know so much. But know that if we are in that position of reading the Bible, without that, we become just as blind as all of those leaders back then. Are we together, yes or no? What are the weightier things of the law? Justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Ironically, the three things that the prophets spoke of all the time. Justice is not, oh, we have to do what is right. No, friend. Justice is taking care of the poor and the widow. It's taking care of the innocent that has been abused. That is justice. It's not just a spiritual, theological. No, it is practicing justice. What is not right, we go out and we help to subvert. We think, oh no, the problem of the world is sin, for sure. But sin is found in the structures of power that govern our societies and that make the poor, that make the hungry, that make all the situations that we have of people, human beings who are loved by God, into these products for our manipulation. So that's justice. Mercy, I don't have to explain what mercy is. James talked about it. Jesus talked about it. Mercy triumphs over judgment. Beautiful image. When we are ready to judge somebody, we need to remember mercy triumphs over our judgments, our reducing other human beings. And faithfulness, truly living a religion of the heart that is not just tied to external practices, but is there and that God sees. When we do what is right and when we do what is wrong, it's there. Anyway, that's what the whole law is all about. If you go back and you teach without that, forget it. It's over. Are you guys with me? Yes or no? Because these are teachings for our community. Like I've told you many times, I don't know how long we have together. Right? I'm not going anywhere, but I don't know what's going to happen to each of you or to me in the next week. All right? So we must keep these things in our mind and in our heart so that we will not be deceived. If ever, so let me try to make this as practical as possible. If ever somebody comes up here, or if you go somewhere else, and you hear people speaking about the will of God and how people must do this and that and feel horrible, you start feeling the weight on your shoulders, and it has nothing to do with justice, mercy, and faithfulness, then know for a fact that that man is not speaking, that woman is not speaking according to the will of God. Period. Because when Jesus said the weightier things of the law are justice, mercy, and faithfulness, that changed the whole Bible. Either you go back and read it like that, or you're not reading it right. Period. Are we together? Hard, isn't it? Because could you imagine the guy's hearing this? What do you mean? The tithing is it's like a whole change of mind. It's like a whole new paradigm, a new world. It's hard. It's not easy. So Jesus says, you have neglected the weightier things of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These, the tithing, the giving to God what belongs to God, you ought to have done without neglecting the other things, you blind guides. You strain out a net and you swallow a camel. And it's weird words, but basically it means like, you know when you're drinking your juice at home at this time of the year and a little fly goes in there? Yeah, or a little, you guys, that happens all the time at home. Because that's unclean, they could not drink because they would be. So basically, they're always being careful, with making sure they don't touch these other. So Jesus is saying, friends, you're taking care of these little things while swallowing camels daily, which is also an unclean animal. It's like there's horrible things happening around you, and it doesn't matter to you. It's so again, this is like Jesus just laying out his heart out, saying it's over. It's over. It's hard. It's difficult. It's impossible. So there you have it. Verse 25, and we're almost in the end. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, also what they did. But inside you are full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and the plate, so that the outside may be clean as well, but your religion is external. You're only worried about other people's perceptions. A religion, a life that is only about how you are perceived. And I had a long conversation with my mom this week about that. Of how I've abandoned long time ago this idea that I need to be perceived by religious people in a particular way without just being myself. Isn't it good to come to a place where you can be yourself, friends? Yes or no? Right? That you don't have to fake it. Come on. It's good. It's important. It can be goofy because, you're goofy, Dolores, and I'm goofy too, to some extent. Good. Anyway, you blind Pharisee, first clean the inside, the religion of Jesus, the inside, so that the outside can become beautiful as well. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and uncleanliness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, and you love it. But within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Interesting. Do you want to think about this for a second? Lawlessness. What does it mean for us for somebody to be lawless? Well, it means that they don't come to church on the Sabbath for us or something like that. For Jesus, you know what lawless looks like? It's hypocrisy. It's not living by love and kindness. That is like you try to keep the law and do your thing, but your law keeping is not. It's what Paul was trying to argue with the Romans in chapter 2. All of your circumcision without love, kindness, justice, and mercy is uncircumcision. Everything that you think that you're doing to keep the law without the weightier things of the law is nothing. Your Sabbath keeping is whatever you think is the opposite of that. It is worthless. And it's hard to hear that because we are so confident in our practices, in our traditions. We're so careful to clean the outside of the cup. Right, Gina? But inside, people are dead and greedy. I've seen it. It's hard. I've seen it in others. And I know I've recognized it in others because I've seen it in me too. It's hard. Lawlessness is tied to hypocrisy. So woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the monuments of the righteous. And we have our own pioneers saying, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have taken part in them, in the shedding of the blood of the prophets. And then Jesus says, thus you witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murder the prophets, which will be Stephen's argument in the book of Acts. We'll get there eventually. Fill up then the measure of your fathers, you serpents, you brood of vipers. How are you to escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore I send you prophets. I send you prophets and wise men and scribes, some of whom you have killed and crucified, and some you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from town to town, so that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly I say to you, all of these things will come upon this generation. Friends, this is hard to hear, isn't it? You, just by saying out of your sense of morality that you would not have done like your fathers did, you recognize that you are children of your fathers. You have already killed people I've sent to you, and you're about to kill somebody else, me, and it's over. And then here is the final famous speech, verse 37. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. So your house is left to you desolate, for I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. That's it. That's the last time Jesus goes to the temple, Jason. He walks out of the temple in the next chapter. It's over. That's the sentence. 7 woes. We read all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in the Bible is a number that represents what? Perfection. So the judgment that Jesus presents to them is perfect. I have tried for ages. I have sent you prophets. You have killed them. And right now, the same is about to happen to Jesus himself. So friends, it's over. This system, this culture, these mechanisms are over. The community of Jesus, that is a sign of the kingdom, is to live by a different rule, by a different reality, by a law that is about justice, mercy, and faithfulness, and love for your neighbor as yourself. And that is the way forward. So why do we still find churches to this day that just want to go back to the judging, to the pointing, to the self-indulgence, to the, that because it's so comfortable, isn't it? Yeah, tradition is comfortable. Why? Because I do it, the other doesn't, and I feel better about myself as I point my finger to the other. All of those mechanisms are still there, and we are called to live by the way of Jesus, to criticize our heart, ourselves first, before we look outside, and to live according to this new reality. So Jesus is about to experience what he taught the Pharisees and the scribes at the temple. He sent messengers. Remember the parable of the vineyard? He sends messengers. They kill all of them. Then the vineyard owner sends his own son. That's Jesus, and he is killed outside. So all of the things Jesus said are about to happen. Judgment is about to take place, and that is bad news for the ones who are oppressing and great news for the ones who are oppressed by all of these systems that are still in place to this day. And the question is, will we be a community that follows all of the 7 things that Jesus reprimanded, or will we be a community that trusts that Jesus is enough, that he is good, and that his kingdom can be experienced now? That's the question. So to end here, what have we learned? How was the access to the kingdom before with the Pharisees and the scribes? What do you think? What do you remember? How did they do it? What was that? Limited. From limited religious bureaucracy. And what does Jesus teach them? How is it to be from now on? Participation. All are welcome to come. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden. My mom just quoted that. And I will give you rest. That's the entrance. No little, oh, but I don't know. Let me do a little checklist here. No, anybody can come through the doors and just stay. Why? Because we are all seeking the same thing, which is peace and joy, forgiveness and rest in Jesus. So from limited religious bureaucracy to open doors. Open doors for participation. Anybody can participate in the work of God. Now, as to signs of faithfulness, what did we find? They are tithing, that are worrying about all of these little things. And people are looking at them. So, oh, those guys are really faithful. They are following every little detail. Right, so yes, Mom, what do you want to say? Oh, good. So you went to the answer already. So from what to this? What was before? I want you to think. I don't want you to sit here and think like you have to listen to me, although that's what happened, which is weird. So what was before? How did the Pharisees and the scribes determine who was faithful? External, right? From external signs and practices. Right? From external signs to justice, mercy, and faithfulness that reveal true faithfulness to God in the heart, and that will lead to external practices. Of little things, no, that's fine, you can do that, but of helping the poor, the sick, the abandoned, the forgotten, the oppressed, those who have been pushed out, and we talked about the parable of the lost sheep, the sheep that have been pushed out to be with them. Justice, mercy, and faithfulness become the way to recognize, yes, that person is faithful. And guess what? If we go by that, we're going to recognize children of God everywhere. People doing a lot of justice and mercy outside of here. Isn't that good? Isn't it good to know that the story is not only about us in here? That's good to me, at least. That's good news to me. Maybe bad news for some. It's like, oh, I wish I was doing so. I have done, like the oldest son in the parable of the prodigal son. I have done everything. It's like, no, it's everybody. Anyway. Are we good? I think we can stop here, yes? Should we stop here? All right, next time we're together, we're going to start chapter 24. I hope you've learned something together. But this is the vision of Jesus for His community. Authority, not from hypocrisy, but service. Hierarchy, no structures of power, but sitting down with everybody. Brothers and sisters, from access to limited religious bureaucracy to open doors for participation. And how do we recognize the faithful? Not by external manifestations of whatever, but by justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And that's hard to see because you don't know what the person is doing or not doing. So that refrains us from judging others. How important. How good. Are we ready to go home? Sorry for not having lunch today. Normally we do. Soon, I think we're getting there, right, Wendy? COVID is going down. I think hopefully soon enough, hopefully by maybe October, Thanksgiving, we can start giving you free food every day after church. Not every day, although that would be cool. After church, every Sabbath. So, friends, I'll see you tomorrow at the garage sale and all that other stuff. I hope you have a wonderful week. Be blessed. I'm going to pray. And above all things, be kind. Yes, Mom, do you want to say something, or are you just reminding me to pray? Mothers are here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to pray. I'm going to pray. It's going to be okay. All right, let's pray together. Make sure you touch whoever's next to you so that they can know that they're not alone. Dolores, you're always by yourself. So just, come on.
Don't forget to bring the table.
True, I can't forget. Dear God, thank you for Jesus who reminds us of what justice, mercy, and faithfulness look like. And may we follow Him and not traditions and ideas created by human people. We pray. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I'll get the table. Thank you, Dolores. Friends, be well, be kind. I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful day.